breaking news for you. As if you thought the gravy train had hit the buffers. Well, it hasn't, ladies and gentlemen. More revelations from Keir Starmer. This morning he admits that he took £20,000 in donations from Lord Ali for accommodation for his 16-year-old son to study, in his words, peacefully for his GCSE exams. I presume this means that's part of the £20,000 that was racked up for using the apartment that Lord Ali has, £18 million apartment apparently, in Covent Garden, a penthouse. Now, previously they said they used that for meetings. Previously they said Keir Starmer worked there on the night of the election. Previously they said that this was a place that he used to use for planning meetings during the election campaign. Now he's saying it was for his son to study peacefully for his GCSEs. Well, I don't know how much peaceful studying he was doing while they're all having a party on election night. Really? Seriously? Starmer said, somebody offered me accommodation. Somebody? You mean Lord Ali offered me accommodation where we could do that, and I took it up, and it was the right thing to do. No, it wasn't. It was the wrong...
Something has cracked in British politics, and the fault line leads straight to Keir Starmer's front door. What began as a simple question about transparency has exploded into a full-blown crisis. A £20,000 sterling 0 pence accommodation deal, a luxury penthouse owned by billionaire Lord Wahid Ali, and a Prime Minister who insists nothing is wrong because it didn't cost the taxpayer a penny. But that's exactly the point. It didn't cost the taxpayer because it was paid for by someone far more powerful.
It was the wrong thing to do, you plonker. And then he goes, it didn't cost the taxpayer a penny. Well, that's all right then. I mean, who on earth thinks it's okay to take money from a lord who's loaded in order to put your child in an apartment that he owns so that he can study peacefully? What influence does Lord Ali have on this government? I keep asking the question, I keep getting no answers. Let's talk to Dave.
The flat in question isn't some modest guest room. We're talking about an £18 million sterling 0 pence Covent Garden penthouse. Reports say it's been used not just for family needs, but for campaign war rooms, party planning and political strategy. And now, Starmer says it was all for his son to quietly revise for exams. That story doesn't sit well with the public. And it's not just about optics. It's about trust. When billionaires provide perks behind closed doors, the public starts wondering what's being traded in return. Enter George Galloway, a political figure who spent years outside the mainstream, often dismissed as theatrical or extreme. But in this moment, he's hit a nerve that no one else dared touch. While others tread lightly, Galloway cuts straight to the heart of the issue. Power without accountability. He laid out what many were too afraid to say, that this wasn't just an oversight, it was a pattern. An unelected billionaire with deep ties to Labour's inner workings, allegedly bankrolling the Prime Minister's lifestyle, from lavish accommodation to personal perks. Not as a gift, but as a relationship with expectations.
Is now widely held in Britain to be screwing the entire country. That's what concerns me. And he is in an improper relationship with the gay Bangladeshi billionaire Lord Ali. That improper relationship is a financial one. Keir Starmer has accepted utterly inappropriate gifts and financial support from Lord Ali in the first instance without declaring it.
The charge is serious, that Lord Ali, a media magnate and political strategist, has not only funded, but influenced the operations of the Labour Party, not just through campaign donations, but by shaping narratives, messaging and decisions. And if that's true, then the party's agenda may not be as independent as it claims. Suddenly, Galloway doesn't look like a fringe voice anymore. He looks like the only one brave enough to say the quiet part out loud. Faced with growing backlash, Keir Starmer finally addressed the controversy. But his response only fueled the fire. Instead of denying the allegations or offering transparency, he leaned on technicalities. No public funds were used, he claimed, as if that erased the problem. But the public wasn't buying it. The issue isn't about who paid, it's about why. Why would a billionaire provide such high-value support to the Prime Minister without expecting something in return? And more importantly, what did he get?
Of fact, he delayed as long as he could, and then beyond that which was acceptable to the parliamentary authorities, the depth, and I mean real depth, of his financial relationship with Lord Ali. No British Prime Minister has ever allowed a billionaire to buy his clothes, buy his glasses, buy his wife's clothes, put him up in a multi-million-pound penthouse apartment in Soho in London. No British Prime Minister has ever had the kind of financial relationship with the billionaire Lord Ali that Keir Starmer...
Critics argue that Starmer delayed disclosure for as long as he could, only coming clean once the pressure became unbearable. Parliamentary authorities had to intervene before any clarity emerged, and even then, the full picture remains murky. The public still doesn't know how deep this financial relationship goes. Worse still, the idea of a billionaire paying for the Prime Minister's glasses, his wife's wardrobe and private accommodation for his son's studies feels less like public service and more like elite sponsorship. And in a time when families are scraping by, that contrast is striking a nerve. The scandal didn't just shock the public. It sent tremors through the Labour Party itself. Inside Westminster, MPs are rattled. Some admit they had no idea this arrangement existed. Others are quietly combing through their own donor records, worried about what else might surface. The silence from the party leadership has only deepened the crisis. For a movement that once branded itself as a vehicle for change, this moment feels like betrayal. Activists who campaigned on promises of transparency and fairness are now questioning the very foundations of that message. Even long-time supporters are uneasy. Was Starmer truly a reformer, or just another figurehead repackaged for mass appeal? The longer he avoids giving clear answers, the more it looks like damage control, not leadership. And that vacuum is being filled. Alternative parties are gaining ground. Reform is rising in the polls. Independents are gaining airtime. And George Galloway, once considered an outsider, is now speaking to a growing audience that feels ignored. The message is loud and clear. The public is tired of spin. They want truth. At the centre of it all is Lord Waheed Ali. He's not just another wealthy donor, he's a political operator, a media executive, and, if reports are to be believed, a behind-the-scenes architect of Labour's digital and campaign strategy. What alarms critics is the extent of his influence. Allegations suggest Lord Ali has been embedded within the party's infrastructure, shaping narratives, steering media coverage, and offering strategic guidance that goes far beyond simple financial support. This isn't about generosity, it's about access, and that's the danger. No one voted for Lord Ali, yet he may be pulling more strings than most cabinet ministers. The idea that a billionaire could potentially steer policy or messaging without public accountability strikes at the core of democratic principles. Galloway's warning wasn't just about one flat or one favour. It was about a system that allows money to seep through the cracks of representative government. When one man's wallet carries more weight than 1 million votes, it raises an uncomfortable truth. Our democracy is being redefined behind closed doors. As the revelations pile up, the British public isn't waiting for spin doctors to catch up. They're connecting the dots on their own. Every decision coming from Starmer's government is now under fresh suspicion. Was that sudden U-turn on housing policy a strategic shift or a favour owed? Is the climate agenda driven by urgency or influence? Even cabinet reshuffles are now being scrutinised for signs of favouritism masked as merit. And the more Starmer stays silent, the louder the questions become. The problem is no longer just optics, it's erosion. Erosion of trust, erosion of belief, erosion of the idea that government works for ordinary people. In cafes, on message boards, at the school gates, voters are whispering a new question. Is this the real Starmer, or just a brand built in private meetings, maintained by private money? Because if the public feels it's all been a polished facade, the fall won't just be dramatic, it'll be irreversible. This scandal isn't just damaging for Keir Starmer, it's revealing something much deeper and far more dangerous about the state of British politics. What we're seeing is a system where wealth doesn't just talk, it directs. The Starmer-Ali connection is just one example, but it exposes a broader rot, A political culture where donors gain private access while the public gets press releases, where campaign strategy meetings happen in penthouses instead of party headquarters, where influence is earned not by votes, but by bank transfers. Galloway's fiery warning struck a chord for one reason. It wasn't just about Starmer. It was about a political machine that's been allowed to drift further away from the people it claims to serve. And now, voters are waking up to it. Reform isn't just surging because of catchy slogans. It's rising because people are fed up with feeling invisible. This isn't a left versus right issue, it's a democracy versus decay moment. For years, Starmer positioned himself as the antidote to political sleaze. A former prosecutor, a straight talker, a cleaner of the mess left behind by others. But now, that image is cracking. And fast. Because when it comes to this scandal, no amount of legalese or carefully crafted statements can cover the truth that people feel in their gut. Something doesn't add up. You can't campaign on fairness while accepting luxury perks behind closed doors. You can't champion equality while taking help that no ordinary family could dream of. And voters aren't just disappointed, they feel misled. Inside Labour, the rift is growing. MPs are angry. Not just about the scandal, but about how it was handled. Some feel betrayed. Others fear what's coming next. More leaks, more connections, more silence. Meanwhile, the country watches, wondering how deep the ties go and how long it's been going on. The promise of integrity is starting to look like just another marketing gimmick, and gimmicks don't win elections. They end careers. The storm swirling around Starmer has unleashed a wave of uncomfortable questions that no leader, no matter how polished, can sidestep forever. What exactly did Lord Ali receive in exchange for his generosity? Influence over policy? A say in appointments? Or something far more embedded? Control over the party's voice and direction? Why was the £20,000 sterling, 0 pence, accommodation deal kept quiet until now? Why did disclosure come only after media pressure and parliamentary scrutiny? And how many more undeclared perks might still be buried beneath the surface? These aren't just technicalities. They go to the heart of democratic accountability. Because in a functioning democracy, leaders are answerable, not just when caught, but always. The public doesn't expect perfection, but they do expect honesty. And when they don't get it, they start looking elsewhere. This is how parties fracture. How movements lose momentum, how reformers become relics. And right now, Starmer is staring straight down that path while pretending it isn't there. The fallout is no longer theoretical, it's happening in real time. Poll numbers are shifting, media coverage is sharpening, and rivals, once lagging behind, are gaining traction off Labour's silence. Reform UK is capitalising fast, turning this scandal into fuel for its outsider narrative. Independents are drawing attention by simply promising transparency. Even voters who never paid much attention to party donations are now questioning how deep the influence runs. And within Labour, the mood is tense. Whispers of panic are spreading. Some MPs are quietly distancing themselves from the leadership. Others are worried their own connections will come under scrutiny. The solidarity that once held the party together is starting to crack under pressure. Meanwhile, George Galloway continues to hammer the point, this is not just about money, it's about manipulation. A political elite using wealth and access to consolidate power, while the public is fed polished sound bites. And the longer Labour refuses to confront it, the more it looks like complicity. What we're witnessing isn't just a political scandal, it's a stress test for British democracy. Because when billionaires can allegedly buy access to leaders, shape messaging, and influence decisions from the shadows, the system stops being democratic, it becomes transactional. And in that kind of system, trust doesn't erode quietly, it collapses. Keir Starmer may still hold the title of Prime Minister, but with every unanswered question, that title loses meaning. Leadership is built on moral authority, not just polling leads. And right now, his authority is bleeding out. This isn't about left or right anymore. It's about accountability versus arrogance, transparency versus secrecy, public service versus private gain. And for many watching at home, those struggling to pay rent, feed their kids, or find hope in politics, this story feels like the final betrayal. Because while they tighten their belts, their leaders live in £18 million sterling, 0 pence, Penthouses paid for by someone they never voted for. If that's not the definition of broken politics, what is? There's no more room to spin. No more clever phrasing or delayed disclosures will change what the public already suspects. Something is rotten at the heart of the system. And unless Starmer confronts it head-on, this won't be remembered as a minor misstep. It'll be the moment his credibility shattered. This scandal has exposed the worst kind of political hypocrisy. A man elected to clean up government now accused of playing the same old game, just with a shinier suit and wealthier friends. But here's what makes this different. People are paying attention. The public isn't looking away. Every statement is being dissected, every relationship re-examined, every future promise weighed against this moment. And if Labour continues to treat this as a PR problem instead of a moral one, they'll find themselves on the losing end of an electorate that's done being fooled. Because in the end, it's not just Keir Starmer's legacy on the line. It's the very idea that democracy still belongs to the people and not to the highest bidder. Subscribe for more updates. The story's just getting started.